A few people tell me I look fatter than I already am. Turns out I've lost 6 pounds. Not that 6 pounds is anything. So I always find it funny when I've like gained weight. People will say to me, "Say, I look like you've lost weight." It's like, no, I've actually gained a few pounds. When I lose, when I lose 5 or 6 pounds, not that I was really trying to, even though I had the flu recently. I lost about 6 to 8 pounds. People are like, "Oh my God, you look so much fatter." It's hilarious, honestly. One of the good things that's going on, and it's going to take a generation to fix, a lot of people are telling me they're homeschooling their kids. Some of them, even if I could only save one kid's life, there's two different ways to save a person's life. You can like pull them out from being hit by a train, for example, the physical life. Saving a person's life is trying to keep them out of the education system, which is not a system for education at all, but rather making a good little slave for the working class. I don't know if people know this, but Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, they specifically stated they did not want critical thinkers. They wanted good workers, like assembly linesmen to build Ford cars and stuff. Neither college nor, because doctors are the second leading cause of death, neither colleges nor the education that you and I got, I surpassed that. I knew it was complete and absolute bunk right from the get-go. It teaches you how to think. If you want your kid to get a genuine, and this is the good news too, people are like, oh my God, for someone to be, a brilliant person that got a real education, learning how to think and critical thinking, that would produce somebody like Tesla, Faraday, Steinmetz, or Tesla's favorite author, Roger Boscovich, you'd actually have to study less material. And this would make any kid wonderful. It's like, oh, yay, less homework. It literally bleaches the spark of life out of a kid when, they keep going to school every day. And I'm not saying about being lazy, it bleaches the spark of life out of them. You just create these drones. The most precious thing anybody would have, and I don't have kids, I wish I had kids, is their children. Why would you do that? Please don't send them to public education. Please homeschool your kid. There are some downsides that have to be compensated for, such as finding other kids to develop relationships with. Not that kind of relationship. Ultimately, yes, but relationships of social interaction. And there are a lot of other ways to do that. They don't actually have to go, well, my kid goes to school, he really hates it, but he's got a lot of friends there. There's other ways for kids to socialize. They can join, I don't know if the Boy Scouts is still in. I know the whole scandal behind the Boy Scouts. I know about that. But there are other things that kids can join where they can actually socialize and yet still avoid this public miseducation system. Colleges are only there to teach you to become a victim. It's just the horrors that I see now. Where people don't have critical thinking skills. They don't have it at all. They don't even know how to read or write anymore. It's gotten worse year after year after year because I read every comment and I see what people type on various boards and whatnot. And people, they don't know how to think at all. They don't even know how to spell anymore. That degree you got in college is nothing other than a piece of toilet paper. I'm sorry. If you want to go there to become a nurse or a lawyer or a doctor or a mechanical engineer, you obviously do need to go there for that. But 95% of people don't need to be going to college. It's a complete and total waste of time. Buckminster Fuller said that schools were about misinformation and, secondly, misorientation. Rockefeller and Morgan created the General Education Board, which of course led to the tyranny and evil that we see currently. The smartest students I've ever seen are always homeschooled. They're always better adjusted. They didn't actually have to grow up, being ostracized and harassed like a bunch of chickens. The reason why they cut it's called a beak tooth on new little chickens to break their way out of the egg, like a new chicks when they put them together in a hen house. They'll actually cut that little beak tooth off so they're not sitting there pecking each other to death, literally pecking each other to death. And that, of course, is what the evil little kids do in school. You know, they'll go after other kids the way they look or think, or, just like a bunch of little pathetic chickens pecking on each other. So you end up with these maladjusted, all these horrific things, by the way, that are done by kids that are, the horrors that we see that these young kids, they've completely exploded internally, and then they finally explode externally. They've been ostracized and picked on, and they're all a product of public school systems. It was, oh, this kid's twisted and warped, and parents are to blame, and the parents are partially to blame. This is certainly so true. But what lit the fire and built up the mound of flammable material is the public school system. It destroyed these kids. These kids have become zombies from the inside out. Once it finally explodes on the outside, it was invisible because it was internal, and the kids are to the point that they can't take it anymore. I mean, I beg you, if you can keep your kids out of public school system, please do it. Please. One of the greatest evils wreaked on me in my life, and I've had a lot of evils wreaked on me, is public school system. But I saw through it right from the get-go. I had no respect for any of my teachers, and I hate to say this, if you are a teacher, 99.99% of teachers deserve absolutely no respect at all. As the old saying goes, those who can't, teach. If you had, and this is the great news, your kid doesn't have to memorize all this trash. You know as well as I do, if you went to public school, you memorized a mountain of trash, 99% of which you can't even remember anymore. You can't remember your trig or you can't remember any of that useless crap. You can't. Useless. There are certain aspects of certain careers where it is useful, but most careers it is certainly not. Absolutely not. And getting your soul bleached and being turned into a spiritual zombie, which is what these school systems do. They fill your head with facts, useless information. They don't teach you how to build and think and have spontaneous creativity, spontaneous problem solving. They want you to go home and memorize garbage, pass this test, pass that test. Oh, and the kids get stressed out because they got a D on something or a C, not because they didn't study hard enough, but because they hated it. And there's this education system, if the earth survives without taking a giant crap on itself, because human beings are so stupid, if this earth does not take a giant crap on itself vis-a-vis World War III, everything that we call the education system today must collapse, must be destroyed, must be ended. Like a sick, cancerous fester, like some sort of black, hairy mole that's growing on your foot. It's like, you need to chop that off. It needs to be ended. It has to be ended. It is not good for your children. It's not good for society. It is bad. It is bad in every way something is bad. They say the children are the future. Well, society is definitely masochistic. Sending kids to public school is really the worst of the worst ideas possible. Your kids don't need to study that much. As long as they're studying the good stuff and they develop critical thinking skills, that's all you need. Would you rather your child's mind be filled with, 10,000 useless facts, or have a nice little toolkit inside of his mind, or her mind, to be able to critically think through things? And they can read something that's written by a famous, prestigious academic scholar, which of course means nothing. It just means a fool, by the way. That's what an academician is a well-educated idiot. And they could read it, and they have critical thinking. They could see through the lies and the BS and this person may have 2 PhDs, but this is wrong, and that's wrong because of that, and that's wrong. Wow, just marvelous. What is better than critical thinking skills so that you could take somebody that might be well super educated, a great product of colleges and schools, and this person has a PhD, and you listen to them, they got a lot more education than I did. I know what they're saying is true because you have a PhD, it says right there. No, these people accept that. That's why people believe in this atomistic particle fantasy nonsense vis-a-vis relativity and this cult of quantum, i.e. the cult of bumping particles. This is not rational thinking. Nikola Tesla talked about these people of academia. He said that they could think deeply but not clearly. He said they were insane. Insane asylums, by the way, are full of really, really deep thinkers. But they can't think clearly. They're there for a reason, because they're nuts. Tesla talked about those that needed to be able to think deeply but also too clearly, produce rational results, invention, discovery. An age of reason. These people that we read from the 16th, 17th century, even earlier than that, these people did not take tons of, basically didn't have any tests at all. They didn't go home and memorize trash, piles and piles of trash. This is the system of Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. This education board filth. It's just the worst kind of filth. They developed critical thinking skills by reading Aristotle, Plato. I was taught critical thinking. Also, too, you need to be able to think in multiple dimensions. Problem solving, creativity, invention. Give your kids broken computers, stuff that don't have volatile components inside, like dangerous capacitors. Things to fix and take apart. That is way more important than, memorizing years of trash. And that doesn't do anything for anybody. You can develop a critical mind memorizing and reading trash and taking tests. This is what public schools and colleges do. Your child is being destroyed. It is way better for a child to have a huge pile of semi-broken, complicated machinery, both mechanical or computer, a screwdriver set, which I've got them all over here. Take things apart, learn how they work, being able to think three-dimensionally, even think four-dimensionally, actually. To be able to build things and take things apart. You can't do that no matter how much you read and memorize or how many tests you take. Being able to think in terms of delayed satisfaction, which you get that playing chess. Be able to think several moves ahead. If I do this, then that happens. But if that happens, then this happens. But if that happens, something good happens. Or if that happens, then something over here bad could happen where, the bishop will take my knight. So even though I'm thinking 3 moves ahead, I'm actually thinking 4 moves ahead, because if I do that, then that person will do that. Very, very important. Taking apart things, learning how to play chess, reading critical things, but not reading them and memorizing them, but actually processing. There are certain things that you read that are read passively, and certain very, very intellectually alive things, kind of like eating dead stuff out of the microwave instead of eating live stuff out of the garden. You ever eaten stuff out of the garden? You instantly feel energized. You do, right? Versus the frozen crap that you heat up in the microwave. They both got the same caloric content, but one of them makes you feel happy and alive, the other one makes you feel miserable and depressed. There are certain materials. Yes, trust me on this. Please, trust me. Now, when you read them, you're not merely passively reading, but they actually process and reorientate your mind to think critically. These are things like Aristotle, Plotinus, Numenius, Tesla, James Clerk Maxwell. There's a whole list of them. These people that you think, well, they were super brilliant, they had incredibly sharp minds, these great authors of the 13th through the 16th century. Some of them did, but most of them, they were taught certain materials growing up that made them have really sharp minds and incredible critical skills of thinking and problem solving, spontaneous thought genesis that made them. That's the same things I studied. I knew my teachers were fools. I listened to what they said, but I was like, these people are fools. This is not what somebody should study and piss their life away on. People, all these kids stressed out about their C's and their D's and their grade that they get. This is a slave mentality of evil, of hell and evil. I don't have kids, but God, if I ever did, if I had, a single care for them, which of course I would not let them go to public schools or college. What do you want me to do? End up with a worthless piece of paper so they become a miserable wage slave, sitting in a cubicle, typing out on a computer, worried about a crap job that barely keeps them alive? What kind of life is that? Who wants that? I spent 7 years in college. I work in a cubicle. I make $120,000 a year. I barely can pay my bills. My wife has left me. My kids hate me. My life sucks. You know. You know how many people out there are like that? A lot! I mean, a lot. You shouldn't want that for yourself, and you sure as hell, if you have a half a friggin' brain, even 5 brain cells, want that for your progeny, your children. Don't send these kids to public school. They're evil. They are the complete opposite of help and benefit for your child. They are. Never met a maladjusted homeschool kid, just not someone that's at least done a halfway decent job. I've never met one. All these sick and evil kids that come out to do horrible things, and they're just dead inside. They're already dead inside. This product public school system in college. Do you really want that? This system, like I said, if humanity doesn't take a giant poop on itself and implode, because humanity is so sick and stupid and evil, this system that we currently have, it's all got to end. It must end. It is sick and evil. It's the same difference between eating microwaved pot pies versus eating something you just plucked out of the garden. They could both have the same caloric content, but by God, the results are qualitatively radically different. That's like eating pure water that's been processed, from toilet water by the public. Hey, it's pure water. It comes out of my faucet. This city's got really clean water. It's like, yeah, quantitatively it's clean, but qualitatively it's trash. Yeah. It's literally billion times recycled toilet water you're drinking that's coming out of your faucet. Yeah, it's clean water. EPA approves of it. It's got chlorine and fluoride in it, and trace amounts of every pharmaceutical known to humanity that it's accumulating in my bloodstream and brain and kidneys, causing me to be a quasi-emotional sicko wreck. People drinking that crap. Same people that think your tap water comes out of your faucet's good are the same people that think public school system's a good idea. You stupid fools. And there's a lot of them. Please, God, don't be one of them. Please, I beg you. If I could only save, I've already saved a few. If I could only save one kid, or 5 of them, from this horrible fate, it would be worth it.